Alright Helldivers, let's talk armor. Because in Helldivers 2, what you wear can matter just as much as what you shoot. In 2026, the best armor isn't about raw stats anymore, it's all about passives. Light, medium or heavy, every armor comes with a unique passive bonus that can completely change how you survive, move and support your squad on the battlefield. And with armor passives scattered across tons of different war bonds, choosing the right one can feel a bit overwhelming. So we did the hard part for you. We went through every single armor passive in Helldivers 2 and ranked them in a full tier list. In this video, we'll break down what each passive actually does, where you can get it, and, most importantly, whether it's worth bringing into your next mission. If you've ever wondered which armor passives are absolute must picks and which ones you can safely skip, you're in the right place. Let's jump in and find the best armor passives for spreading democracy the smart way. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking armor passives in Helldivers 2. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The armor passives in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Democracy Protects, Servo Assisted, Engineering Kit, Unflinching, Reinforced Epaulets, Inflammable, Desert Stormer, Scout, and Electrical Conduit. At this point in the tier list, we're officially in the "this sounded cooler on paper" section, and C tier is exactly where expectations go to quietly retire. These armor passives aren't completely useless, but they do have a talent for letting you down at the worst possible moment. Let's break them down one by one, Helldivers 2 style, with a bit of honesty and a bit of pain. Democracy Protects is basically a coin flip dressed up as heroism. You either survive a lethal hit or you don't, and if you do survive, congratulations. You are now alive at exactly 1 health point. That means a single stray bullet, a light explosion impact, or even bad timing will delete into you before you can even think about using a stim. It feels dramatic, sure, but drama does not win missions when the floor itself is trying to kill you. Servo Assisted wants you to believe that throwing things farther is a lifestyle. In reality, it is just a reminder that throwing distance does not need an entire passive dedicated to it. Your limbs are still going to get destroyed like usual, and no amount of extra throwing range is saving you from that. It is fine, but fine is not enough when everything else in the game is actively hostile. With Engineering Kit, you get extra throwables, which sounds decent until you remember that resupplying exists. Grenades are rarely the core of anyone's loadout, and building an entire passive around having 2 more of them feels a bit optimistic. It is not bad, but it also never feels like it actually changes how you play. Unflinching tries to do a lot at once and ends up doing none of it particularly well. The armor rating increase is acceptable, but the map scans generated from markers only matter if you are absolutely desperate to avoid enemy patrols. The flinch reduction also sounds good until you realize you will still miss precision shots the moment something sneezes in your direction. Reinforced Epaulets gives you faster reloads on primary weapons, which is genuinely nice, but then it adds bonuses you will rarely care about. A chance to avoid limb injuries sounds useful until you realize you are doing just fine without it, and the melee damage increase is mostly decorative in a game where punching things is usually a bad idea. Inflammable is a passive that only shines if you make questionable life choices. Fire resistance is nice, but it really only matters if you are intentionally setting yourself on fire by using close-range incendiary weapons. If that is your plan, respect, but for everyone else, this passive just kind of exists. Then we have Desert Stormer, which offers resistance to fire, gas, acid, and electrical damage, plus increased throwing range. On paper, that sounds versatile, but in practice, the resistances are too weak to matter, and the throwing range bonus almost never comes in clutch. It tries to cover everything and ends up excelling at nothing. Scout leans heavily into stealth, but Helldivers 2 is not exactly a quiet game. Placing markers to generate scans for patrol detection sounds tactical, yet it is mostly useless when enemies can still hear your footsteps. Even the reduced detection range does not save you once the shooting starts, which it always does. Finally, Electrical Conduit gives strong resistance to arc damage, and that would be amazing if arc damage were not still extremely lethal. Arc towers from the Illuminate and even your own allies will absolutely erase you regardless, so while the resistance is noticeable, it is nowhere near enough to actually keep you alive. So yeah, C tier is not about being awful, it is about being forgettable. These armor passives will not ruin your run, but they will rarely save it either, and in Helldivers 2, that is often the difference between extraction and becoming a patriotic creator. The armor passives in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Extra Padding, Feet First, Advanced Filtration, Acclimated, integrated explosives, ballistic padding, and gunslinger. Somewhere between why does this exist and okay, I'll allow it, B tier lives comfortably as the dependable middle child of armor passives. These are not flashy game changers, but they do quietly save runs, patch mistakes, and make certain playstyles feel smoother without demanding attention every second. Extra padding is as straightforward as it gets, and honestly, that is its biggest strength. A flat increase to armor rating might not sound exciting, but surviving hits you otherwise would not is always welcome. It does not change how you play, it does not add gimmicks, it just makes you harder to kill, and sometimes that is all you need when chaos is unavoidable. Feet first is surprisingly useful if you like playing a little smarter. Making less noise while moving helps with stealth approaches, and the increased point of interest identification range makes hunting sub-objectives and samples much easier. If you are farming or trying to clear a map efficiently, this passive quietly does a lot of work in the background. With advanced filtration, gas becomes your personal comfort zone. You are practically immune to it, and enemies are not, which creates some very unfair situations in your favor. Enemies stumble around confused while you casually gas the area and pick them off, standing safely inside the cloud like it is a tactical spa day. Acclimated is one of those passives that makes you feel invincible until you remember this is still Helldivers 2. 50% resistance to all elemental damage means fire, acid, gas, and electricity stop being instant death sentences. Instead of exploding immediately, you take manageable damage that you can actually heal, which is huge when friendly fire is basically guaranteed. Integrated explosives is for Helldivers who believe every death should send a message. When you die in combat, your armor explodes and deals serious damage to nearby enemies, which is especially satisfying against anti-tank units. That said, dropping back in with a Hell pod often achieves the same result, so this passive is more about style and timing than pure efficiency. Ballistic padding shines when the battlefield turns messy. Resistance to chest damage and explosives helps prevent those moments where a random blast sends you flying, bleeding out on the ground with no time to use a stim. It does not make you immortal, but it dramatically reduces the number of cheap, frustrating deaths. Finally, Gunslinger gives sidearms the respect they deserve. Faster draw and reload times, combined with reduced recoil, turn pistols and submachine guns into reliable panic buttons. When your primary runs dry at the worst moment, this passive makes sure your backup weapon actually feels like a backup plan instead of a last regret. The armor passives in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Reduced Signature, Rock Solid, Adreno Defibrillator, Fortified, and Supplemental Adrenaline. Somewhere around here is where armor passives stop being nice to have and start feeling like they are actively enabling your bad decisions, in the best possible way. A tier is stacked with passives that clearly support specific playstyles and do their job so well that you immediately notice when they are missing. Reduced Signature is a dream for commando-style missions and any operation where fighting is optional and objectives are the real target. Enemies have a much harder time noticing you, which lets you slip through patrols, ignore unnecessary fights, and finish missions faster with less chaos. If your goal is efficiency over explosions, this passive feels almost unfair. With Rock Solid, the game finally stops throwing you around like a ragdoll. The anti-ragdoll effect alone is huge, but pairing it with increased melee damage turns this into a perfect match for melee-focused builds. You can actually stay on your feet and commit to close combat without being instantly launched across the map by the first enemy that sneezes near you. Adreno Defibrillator turns death into more of a suggestion than a rule. As long as your body has not been completely destroyed, you keep going after dying, slowly losing health if you do not have stims. This gives you precious extra time to finish objectives, reposition, or simply burn through the mission's reinforcements more efficiently, which is incredibly valuable in longer operations. Fortified is a nightmare for automatons and a blessing for anyone tired of explosions. 50% resistance to explosive damage dramatically increases your survivability, and the recoil reduction while crouching or prone makes sustained suppressing fire far more effective. This is especially helpful against fast-moving or flying enemies that are normally hard to track and hit. Finally, Supplemental Adrenaline rewards you for getting shot, which in Helldivers 2 happens constantly. The bonus armor rating improves survivability, while generating stamina when taking damage keeps you mobile under pressure. You end up sprinting through gunfire, repositioning constantly, and refusing to slow down, which makes this passive feel incredibly powerful in the heat of battle. The armor passives in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Medkit, Peak Physique, and Siege Ready. This is the point where the game stops pretending to be fair and just hands you raw power with a smile, because S tier armor passives are built to carry missions on their own. These are the picks that immediately change how confident you feel the moment you drop in, and once you use them, it is very hard to go back. Medkit is pure dominance disguised as medical supplies. Holding 6 stims alone already reduces how often you need to scavenge under fire, but the real magic is the extended healing duration. Your health keeps climbing while you are actively fighting, which means you can tank damage, reposition, and stay aggressive instead of panicking every time your health bar dips. In prolonged fights, this passive straight up keeps you alive through situations that would delete most other builds. Peak Physique is not about punching harder, even though the melee bonus exists. The real value comes from massively improved weapon ergonomics, especially on heavier guns. Reduced weapon sway means smoother aim, better control, and the ability to stay mobile while firing weapons that normally feel clunky. It turns heavy firepower into something fluid and reliable, which is incredibly powerful in high-pressure combat. Siege Ready is the embodiment of always prepared. More ammo across all weapons combined with faster reloads on primary weapons means downtime is almost non-existent. You are constantly shooting, constantly ready, and never caught reloading at the worst possible moment. When enemy waves keep coming and breathing room disappears, this passive makes sure you are still standing and still firing. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.